Def Definitely need that proper hydration. We're going to talk about why that's important for studying for brain health. But sometimes it's underlooked, right? If people have certain health goals, nutritional goals, anywhere they're on their health journey, they might kind of forget about hydration. So we're going to talk about that, okay? I'm also, no need to type questions in the chat if you don't want to, or we don't need to wait until the end necessarily. If you want to use like the raise your hand function, we can do that. I like to answer questions in between. Think of it as more like a conversation if you guys want. So open to that. All right. So here's what we're going to cover today. Obviously, why hydration is important. So why is this topic so important? The number one question I get from my clients, how much water we should be drinking every day. Obviously, some tips on how to stay hydrated. What are the best ways to drink enough water or get hydration in other ways? We will talk about minerals. Alexander, you had asked that. We will talk about caffeine and alcohol and how they affect your hydration status, and sugar sweetened beverages as well. I also didn't actually introduce myself. Sorry, I'm Hannah. I'm a dietitian. I'm one of the dietitians at the UCLA Rec Center through the Fitwell program. We're a couple dietitians there. So nice to meet you guys. Thanks for coming. All right. So why is hydration so important? You've probably heard this stat many, many times, right? But we are made up of about 60% water, somewhere between 45 and 75%, depending. We're made up of water. We have a lot of water in our bodies. So, of course, if we're made up of water, it's extremely important to be getting enough to replenish, right? So, water is very important for so many bodily functions. Now, I could really only write a few on here, but to name a couple, so proper digestion, if we're eating fibers and foods, those fibers can get stuck in our intestines if we don't have enough water, right? So constipation, if you're not drinking enough water, you might be constipated. Kidney function really relies heavily on water, right? So kidneys are what filter excess vitamins and minerals, essentially toxins in the body. If we don't have enough water, those toxins can build up. And then blood pressure and blood sugar control are two very important functions that need water. So similar to kidney function, if we don't have enough water, our blood sugar content will go up. Also, the sodium as well. If we're eating too much sodium or if we don't have enough water, we'll have too much sodium in the blood, and we know that too much sodium can lead to high blood pressure. Cognitive function. Anyone just like tired generally when they're dehydrated or feel like they're not thinking right, maybe a little dizzy too? That's very important for studying. Water is very important for that. Temperature regulation, if you're really hot, you might be dehydrated, joint lubrication, truly the list goes on and on, right? So overall, we need enough water for skin health, for our cognition, and for physical performance. And we'll have a lot of headaches if we don't drink enough water. I wrote that in there because that's one of the top signs of dehydration. We'll go over that too. All right. So you can say this out loud or type in the chat. I'm going to have a couple of these. True or false? Everyone should drink 8 cups of water every day. What do you guys think? We don't know.
I think it's false. I drink
False.
more than that. Yeah.
Yep, you're right. It is false. Everybody, first of all, has different needs, so we'll talk about that. Also, this recommendation came from very loosely based scientific evidence. about 100 years ago, too, might I add. So the 8 cups of water has been used so much in the healthcare setting specifically, but it is not true. It's false. So, how much water should you be drinking? It's kind of a hard question to answer um, because there are so many factors that affect it, and we'll go through those. But a good starting point is half of your body weight in ounces, and body weight using pounds, right? Not kilos. I should have written that in there, sorry. So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds, half of 150, 75. So you would roughly drink or need to drink about 75 ounces of water daily. Now, I say that's a good starting point because there are so many other factors that affect how much water you need. So your age, your weight, the climate, obviously, if it's really hot outside, you'll need more water. Or if it's very dry, you're going to need more water too. Your activity level, if you're exercising more, you sweat more, you're breathing more, you need more water. Certain medical conditions and medications will also affect how much water you need. Infection, if you're sick, if you've ever heard someone say, oh, you're sick, like make sure you drink plenty of fluids, make sure you keep drinking lots of water because we need more water when we're sick. Pregnancy and breastfeeding can also affect how much water you need. So a lot of factors. And that's why the 8 cups a day is false for some people, right? For many people. And it's important to pay attention to these different factors that can affect how much water you need. Okay, another question, true or false? Drinking liquids is the only way to stay hydrated.
False. I think you can get it from vegetable, fruits.
Exactly, yes. Drinking liquids is one easy way, of course, to get enough fluids, enough water, but you're absolutely right. Unsweetened teas, 100% fruit juices, smoothies, fruits, vegetables, and soups too, soups and stews, they all have water in it. So that's one way to get hydrated. It's harder to measure that way, maybe with the tea you can measure the ounces, but harder to measure, how many ounces of water does a bell pepper have. Um, but it's okay. Just it's important to know that those foods can specifically help you increase the water content, increase your water intake. Another fun way to stay hydrated, and I have a resource at the end that has even more information and more ideas on how to stay hydrated. But like making your own like spa waters, if you've ever heard of spa waters, like the cucumber waters or flavor infused waters. Adding fruits or different herbs like mint, like I actually have a mint plant outside. I love adding mint to my water. Makes it fun, especially if you're someone that doesn't like water, feels like water is boring. I also didn't mention on here, but a lot of my clients, I recommend they use timers or alarms to drink more water, especially if they forget. Um, Timers, alarms, post-its, some sort of a reminder to help you drink more water. So some signs of dehydration, like we talked about, headaches being one of the biggest ones. Confusion, if you're kind of feeling like a little dizzy, just like not all there, could be a sign of dehydration. Same with like feeling like you're going to faint or actually fainting could be a sign of dehydration. Dry skin, that's why in drier weather we need more water. Um, I put dark colored urine, but I'll explain more about the color of urine. Sometimes that could be a sign of dehydration. Rapid breathing, even rapid heart rate, and inability to urinate. Sometimes that can mean you just don't have enough to pee out, essentially. Um, so how do I know if I am hydrated, right? One, of course, the absence of any of these signs of dehydration. And we'll talk about the color of urine. Now, many people have heard, the lighter the color urine, the better. So if it looks like a light lemonade, that means you're hydrated. If it looks something like an apple juice or dark apple juice, that means you're dehydrated. But if you're taking certain medications or vitamins, even, that can make your urine darker, even if you are hydrated. So just be aware of that. It still can be a good measure, though. It's not a bad measure, right? Um, Proper cognitive function too, overall, yes. Like if we're not feeling confused, if we're, feeling very focused, we're likely pretty hydrated, right? Um, and another thing that I didn't put on there is if I'm not thirsty. I also want to talk about that because, a lot of people say, well, just drink when I'm thirsty, right? But some people don't feel that sensation of thirst as often as we would need to feel it in order to drink enough water. And some people experience excessive thirst, for example, diabetes. That's a symptom that you might feel if you have diabetes is excessive thirst. So still, it's an okay way to tell if you're hydrated or dehydrated, but there's still some other better ways to figure out if you're drinking enough water. Just checking in. Any questions so far? You guys good? Just let me know. All right. So, Alexandra, you asked about this at the beginning. Minerals. Minerals are very important. They Minerals are needed for basic life functions. All the functions in the body need minerals. They do need to be replenished daily. That could be through mineral rich foods, which we'll talk about, or supplements, which we'll also talk about. And the biggest thing to remember is that minerals are depleted with stress. And this isn't just like, oh, I'm really stressed out today. I have a big test coming up, or I have a big event, or just I have a lot to take care of at home. It's even physical stress. So, exercise, minerals deplete with exercise. Cognitive stress, if you're studying, working a lot, using your brain a lot, that absolutely depletes those minerals. So very, very important to be replenishing them daily. Similar reason why we need to drink water daily. We can't just skip a day drinking water. Um, and the most important function of minerals is to properly hydrate ourselves. So minerals they're on the inside and the outside of the cell. And they're the ones that allow water to enter the cell. So if we either don't have those minerals or we have an imbalance of those minerals, water can't even go inside the cell. And then it just gets excreted and not properly used by the body. So that's why minerals are very important. Okay. Um, and so I put a note that electrolytes are minerals, but it's also important to remember that not all minerals are electrolytes. But today we're going to be specifically talking about sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So these three minerals or electrolytes, same thing in this case, are very important to be getting enough of. Sodium is very easily found in foods, both naturally and unnaturally. So processed foods, we know a lot of processed foods have a lot of salt in them. Why? Because sodium is a great way to preserve food. So you're going to find salt in frozen foods, in canned foods, in, snack type foods like chips and pretzels and popcorn. Um, Even baked goods too, like cookies, muffins, breads. Breads have a lot of salt in them. And then a lot of fast food places will put a lot of salt as well. Potassium and magnesium, they are found naturally in fruits, vegetables, grains, meats. But these are the minerals that maybe sometimes we need a little bit of help getting more, or at least more attention in trying to get more of, right? So how do we get more minerals? We want to include more mineral-rich foods. So like I said, fruits, vegetables, high quality meats, whole grains. Minerals come from the ground. So anything that's grown from the ground or anything that's eating, plant materials such as meats that we might eat, like animals, that's how they get the minerals, right? So we want the minerals from those fruits and vegetables and grains and such. And then you can supplement with drops, powders, electrolyte drinks, capsules. This is another topic on its own, and I wish I could go more into depth on this. And we could talk a little bit about it now, but what's really important to remember with these supplements is that they're not all created equally. Some brands might have 1,000 milligrams of sodium and very little potassium and magnesium. Some brands might have a lot of potassium and magnesium and no sodium at all. And some brands might have some sort of mixture in between there. And then with any supplement or powder, there's also additional ingredients, specifically sugar. Um, some include caffeine. Some, include an array of other vitamins or other ingredients. So the best way to find out how to choose a supplement for you or to see if a supplement is even right for you is to meet with a dietitian. Or if you can't meet with a dietitian, meeting with a doctor. It's very important to get those recommendations. Um, and I say that coming from, meeting with clients who are taking, for example, liquid IV, they might have high blood pressure, and liquid IV has a lot of sodium. Per serving, it has about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. That and Element. I know Element actually have, I think, more. So, they come in and they're, happy that they're taking these minerals and they have high blood pressure and they're wondering why it keeps going higher and higher and higher. So something like that's just really important to talk with a dietitian to kind of figure out, what sort of balance of minerals you do need, if you need any at all, and kind of where to get it from. Um, and then the sugary ones. So like Gatorade has been used a lot as like the electrolyte drink for many years before all of these other mineral powders came on the market. But Gatorade, obviously the normal Gatorade, not the Gatorade Zero. Gatorade is loaded with sugar and really only has sodium in it. Potassium and magnesium are kind of lacking in there. So again, it's important to know the balance and what's right. Um, I don't know, Alexander, if that answers some of your questions, or if you had very like other specific questions about minerals, you're always welcome to email me or something like that after. But it's a whole topic on its own, so I won't get too into it today. All right. So caffeine and alcohol, um, two vices, two great things. I mean, I even have a little bit of coffee left here. So we've all heard, caffeine and alcohol are diuretics, right? And they are, both in a little bit different ways. First of all, what even is a diuretic? A diuretic is something that increases urine production in the body, therefore increasing urine excretion. So essentially getting rid of water. And that's why diuretics are known to be dehydrating. But research actually shows that overall, the amount of caffeine, or I should say coffee, really, but the amount of caffeine that most people drink and consume in a day isn't really enough to fully dehydrate someone. So this is good news in a way, right? If you like your coffee. Um, so here, the FDA tells us that 400 milligrams a day of caffeine is like the upper limit. We don't want to drink more than that, or else we can become severely dehydrated. But what even is 400 milligrams? So, for reference, about 100 milligrams of caffeine can be found in one 8-ounce cup of coffee. So, that's about 4 cups of coffee. I don't know about you, but I don't even drink that much. I don't think I've ever had that much coffee before. Um, but it's important to know that still it can be a little bit dehydrating. Now, something to note, of course, usually caffeinated drinks are made with water. So you're still getting water while you are drinking the caffeine or the caffeinated beverage. Um, Still, caffeine can lead to some dehydration. And it's also important to remember that everybody processes caffeine differently. So while one person might be sensitive to 20 milligrams of caffeine and, maybe have a lot more bladder issues and more dehydration issues than another person, maybe someone can drink 400 milligrams easily and be okay. That again is a great question for a dietitian or a doctor to kind of meet with them one on one and kind of figure out what's best for you. Also important to remember caffeine is not only in coffee, as every time I ask my clients, how much caffeine do you drink? They only tell me about the coffee and they forget about everything else. So just remember that a lot of teas have caffeine. So green and black teas. Some sodas, not most sodas, have a little bit of caffeine in them. Of course, energy drinks, those have excessive amounts of caffeine, energy shots too, as well. Chocolate and cocoa products in very small amounts, but it still does have caffeine. Matcha, mate, guarana, even kombucha. Kombucha is made with usually black tea or green tea. People forget about kombucha having caffeine as well. So again, none of these are bad to drink, but it's just important to recognize and remember that these do have caffeine, and if you drink several of these in a day, um, could contribute to some dehydration. And then alcohol. So alcohol messes with pretty important kidney hormones, similar to caffeine. And these hormones are responsible for fluid balance in the body. Um, so your body needs to eliminate the waste that comes from the alcohol and the byproducts that are toxic that are created by digesting alcohol. So this process needs water to essentially eliminate this toxic waste from alcohol. So water's flushed out quicker than alcohol can be metabolized. And that's why people experience hangovers, because the alcohol part is still in the body and we're pushing out water, we're dehydrating ourselves. So those symptoms, like the headaches, like we talked about, headache is a big sign of dehydration. Nausea, vomiting, that's all because the toxic buildup from the alcohol and the alcohol byproducts of processing alcohol, the buildup is high and there's not enough water in there. So if you are of age and you do want to consume alcohol, there's a rule, if you will, or a guidance to drink 1 cup of water for every alcoholic drink. I think that's great. Definitely stay hydrated, but also eat food. Don't drink alcohol on an empty stomach, just to help you be able to process it better. Okay, last question, I promise. True or false? There's no such thing as drinking too much water. The more water, the better. What do you guys think with this one?
False. I think there is something called too much water. I'm bothered by this problem. I'm always like drinking.
Always drinking. Alexander?
I heard the term before, I watched I read like a scientific article and they said that there was something called overhydration, where you drink like too much water, especially if you're doing something as such as like physical activity and you feel like you're like drinking more water than you probably are losing, and that can be like overhydration.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. So the term is called overhydration. So obviously this question is false. So all of the trivia questions are false on here. There is such a thing as overhydration, and it's, like when we're talking about minerals and how they help to, if there's not enough minerals or not the best balance of minerals in the body, the water can't enter the cell. Well, now if we have too much water, we essentially have another misbalance or imbalance of minerals in the body too. And that's not safe either, right? That can cause issues with the heart, obviously issues with proper hydration, urination, um, again, blood sugar issues. So there is a such thing as overhydration. Um, a big way that I've known a lot of clients to figure out if they're overhydrated is if they're very, very bloated and they haven't, we've ruled out all of the other issues of, the digestive system. They don't have any digestive diagnoses. They don't have any food allergies or intolerances. Sometimes they just start drinking less water and the bloating is gone. So that could be one symptom of it. So yes, it's definitely false. Good job. So the last thing we'll talk about are sugar sweetened beverages. Sugary drinks, sodas, other sugary beverages, they have water in them. So they can still be hydrating in some type of a way. However, the water that's needed to process the amount of sugar that's being taken in exceeds the amount of water that you're intaking. So basically, you need more water to process the sugar, and you're probably not getting enough when you're drinking the soda. It's very similar to alcohol. Alcohol is actually a type of sugar, so it just takes more water, right? And then, of course, sugary drinks, they increase our blood sugar levels very quickly. Especially, like the Cokes and all the sodas that have really excessive amounts in there. If you're drinking these very regularly, or if you're drinking a lot in a day, that can increase your risk over time of developing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. And we definitely don't want that to happen, right? Um, so anything in beverage form really that has sugar in it, that sugar is going to enter your bloodstream very quickly, and it's going to cause some imbalances in hydration. So it's not that they're necessarily super dehydrating, but I wouldn't necessarily count it as getting enough fluids in your day. So maybe one drink is okay, but um, you know, I wouldn't necessarily count it as getting enough fluids as part of your calculation of how much water you need in a day. All right, so the first website here actually is the one I was telling you has a lot of good tips on, drinking enough water and how to get more water. There are a lot of handouts on this page that I think are wonderful, pretty much talking about every topic that we talked about today, even more. So I highly suggest going to that website, and the other three websites are very helpful too. All right, any questions, you guys?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the sparkling water healthy or not? How about the flavored sparkling water, like
Yes.
the Trader Joe ones? Yeah.
Mhm. Good question. Good question. So a lot of people, one, worry about the carbonation, and two, worry about the like quote unquote natural flavors that are being added, or any other like artificial sweeteners. If we're strictly talking about hydration, the carbonation is fine. It still is hydrating. However, carbonation can also be bad for your teeth if you're drinking it in excessive amounts. It could also produce gas and bloating and sometimes issues with digestion. But if we're strictly talking about hydration, it still is very hydrating. So if you need to throw that in there to, make things fun and exciting, having one a day is a really great option. Hope that
So
answers your question.
pure carbonated water is not unhealthy.
Not necessarily, no. But again, like there are those other factors of what else is in there. But overall, carbonated water is no, it's not unhealthy.
Ah, okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Alexander.
So I guess going back to the to the electrolytes
Mhm.
and yeah like I guess like minerals and that's sort of thing. So for like electrolytes, like do we and I guess you kind of covered touch upon this, but like are those kind of like electrolyte drinks like actually necessary or especially if I don't know like if you're like working out a lot, for example, is the amount you need or to like rehydrate like something that you need to do with something like that?
Yeah. No, it is a good question. I I want to say yes, it's necessary, but again, it depends on if you have any other medical conditions, how much you're exercising, how much you sweat during exercising. Overall, yes. And there is a general consensus too, based on research, that if you're exercising for more than 2 hours, then you need to replenish some of those minerals, absolutely. But again, it's hard to know exactly. Like I can't tell you specifically, just not knowing, your history and how much you're exercising and what you do for exercising, all those things. But most people would benefit from adding mineral supplements to their diets. Again, I can't put a blanket statement of everyone because it can be dangerous for some people, but most people would benefit from some sort of mineral supplement. And the reason is too because remember how I said like minerals come from the earth. So those minerals are being sucked up by the fruits, the vegetables, the grains, um, from the animals that eat the grass and whatnot. Overall, our soil in the US, in the country, has been mineral depleted. So we're losing nutrients in the soil. So our foods naturally also are decreasing in mineral strength, if you will, mineral capacity. Um, and like I said before, too, stress really depletes minerals. I think just as a society, we experience more stress and anxiety overall. So I think that's why many people can benefit more from minerals. So yes, overall my answer is yes. I don't want to say it's necessary without really knowing you well enough, but I hope that gives you a better understanding.
Yeah, that definitely helps. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Any other questions, comments,
Can
concerns?
I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Uh, like I personally have a issue of drinking too much water. I'm always thirsty, and especially before night when I go to bed, I
Mhm.
always feel thirsty, and I drink tons of water. Uh, but yeah, it bothers me. Just how, is there any dietitian methods to make me not that thirsty?
Well, the first thing you have to do is figure out why you're feeling thirsty, right? It could be a number of reasons. It could be an underlying medical condition, a certain medication that you might be taking. It could be that maybe you're not drinking enough water throughout the day. Um, Maybe you don't have enough minerals. You're not drinking enough or taking in enough minerals, so your cells aren't properly hydrated. So there's a number of things, but the first thing is figuring out why. and then we can kind of answer that question. So, you know, working with a dietitian, you can find out why, you know, kind of going through your medical history, any other information about your diet and your lifestyle and exercise that can all kind of help in figuring out. Um, so just kind of ask yourself some of those questions if you want to start off. Am I drinking enough water throughout the day? Am I sweating too much? Am I getting enough minerals, you know, through my diet? And those can kind of lead you to kind of figure out more why of what's happening or to help reduce that thirst at the end of the day. And think about it
What
too. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I mean, what you just said, I think I drink tons of water throughout the whole day.
You
And
do.
the minerals, if I don't have enough minerals, even though I have a lot of plain water, will I still feel thirsty? What do you mean that?
You still might. You could because
Ah, okay.
we might when we don't have enough minerals, like I was saying, the water can't properly enter the cell, so it gets excreted. The water gets excreted more easily, and we might still feel thirsty. We might still feel dehydrated, if we're not getting enough minerals. So
Okay,
um,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really helpful. I think that can be the problem. Yeah,
it could be, yeah, but definitely work with someone to figure that out too, if that doesn't
yeah,
fully answer. Yeah.
sure. Thank you for the information.
Yeah, of course. Alexander?
And I'm sorry. Earlier in the presentation, I uh like there was a lot of noise that I was hearing around, so it was a little bit hard to hear. Did we
Okay.
discuss did we discuss earlier like in terms of like I guess like sources of water? Because like for example, like some people say like, oh well, uh uh you should drink from like tap water, filtered tap water, and like and but there's also
Oh,
like bottled there's also like bottled water, and then like there's some like bottled water that has like fluoride in it, or something like that. Like,
right, right. We didn't discuss that actually. I thought you were asking like just different ways to get water. Um, no, we did not talk about that. So, you know, like what's better, tap water, spring water, filtered water. Is that kind of what you're asking?
yeah, I mean that's like part of it, especially like since you hear a lot about like specialty waters or something like that, like
Yes.
uh, and that sort of thing. So it's like is water water, or is it like
Yeah.
or does it? Yeah,
Overall,
yeah.
yes. Yeah, overall water is water. Um, you know, we don't want to be drinking contaminated water or water with like heavy metals and toxins. That's why I can't remember the website, but there is a website to put in your zip code and figure out like how filtered your water is, your tap water, and if you need a filter or not. Obviously for health reasons, you know, we don't want to consume that. But you are right. I think the waters on the market are purely to make money. The alkaline waters, the like the smart waters, a lot of them do that just for taste and just to make money. Um, so, you know, and think about all of them too are mostly coming in plastic water bottles. So you could be drinking more microplastics because of it. I, if you don't have to buy any of them, I would suggest not wasting your money. You know, bring your own bottle, refill it wherever you can. Uh, but I don't think you need to buy bottled water, any of those like special waters at all. I think it's all a marketing play.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So is the filter necessary for the water in here? I mean, in LA, do we have to filter it or tap water is just fine?
I believe most places in LA, it's best to filter. But there's so many different zip codes in Los Angeles where they have different water sources, and it gets even more complicated as to the type of pipes that are used for our tap waters. I think it's best practice to filter the water. Having 1 or 2 cups of tap water isn't going to kill you. But I think on a very regular basis, I think having a filter would be helpful and probably better for you. I know they can be expensive. I think the best options are like a Brita or Pure filter, just like the pitchers. Um, Other than that, just filling up with filtered water when you're at school or work or anywhere else that might have filtered water, you can drink from there. But yeah, tap water isn't in LA, it's safe to drink the tap water essentially. And I know many people that do drink it every day, so I think it's just best practice, and I think it tastes better to filter it too. So
Yeah, it does taste better for me too. Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, of course. These are great questions, you guys. Thank you. Of
Thank you.
course. Any other questions or anything else you guys want to talk about with hydration? Yes, Alexander.
And like as for the common wisdom or like quote unquote common wisdom, like you should drink like what is it, like 8 glasses of water a day? Like based on your description of like the of like how to tell if you're dehydrated, I'm guessing that like common like advice is like not exactly the most accurate, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. It's definitely false. Um, for some people, that might be too much water depending on the day. And for some people, that's very little water. I don't know if any of you have heard, and this kind of goes in line with the overhydration, but if you've heard people say, like, oh, I drink a gallon of water a day, or my goal is to drink a gallon of water. That's 16 cups of water. That's a lot of water. So likely you don't need to drink that much water unless you are working outside all day or you are constantly on your feet or exercising for several hours a day. So anyone who tells you, this is really kind of the key here, is anyone who tells you you should be drinking this amount of water every day, absolutely question it. Unless it's coming from a practitioner, a healthcare practitioner that knows you and that knows, everything about your health and medical condition. Um, you know, Someone telling you drink X amount of water a day, ask them, okay, based on what? The 8 cups, why? The gallon, why? It's not, it's not a one size fits all. So, and the 8 cups is very outdated. Great question. All
Oh,
right.
and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not sure if you saw it, but Liz asked in the like chats like about alkaline water.
Oh, I can't see the chats for some reason. Let me try to. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I could not see the chats.
Oh, that's
Oh, they
okay.
they weren't popping up for me. Um, oh yes, so alkaline water. Alkaline water, people drink alkaline water because we're being told that we might have too much acid in the body, and the only way to neutralize that acid is to drink alkaline water. Um, I don't think it's very helpful for most people because one, our bodies need to be slightly acidic in order to digest our food. And that's just the natural pH of our body is slightly acidic. So we don't want to drink too much alkaline water. The research behind it doesn't really prove that it actually helps. Now, unless you're someone that has very increased acid reflux or you have acid problems in your stomach, it might be recommended by a GI doctor or by a dietitian, but on a regular basis for a generally healthy person, I would say save your money. I don't think you need it. Also a good question. I'm loving these questions. See, water and hydration is there, it's really a whole world, right? And we're not even really talking about food. There's so much to know when it comes to hydration. So, any other last questions? I think we have a few more minutes. Mostly good. Yes, Alexander.
Uh, Sorry, one last question. I guess it's just
Okay.
like as someone that's like trying to work out more, I guess, and like I'm
Mhm.
trying to do things such as like cardio and like I guess and like I guess I will admit that like that's some that I do sweat a bit. Like I guess like does that just mean like that like more water is necessary, or is it like I don't know, is there like smarter hydration like to do it more effectively, or like we mentioned about like different ways to get like hydration hydrated,
Yeah.
like um is I don't know, is it like on some days you drink some water more than like others or something like that?
Exactly. Yep. So remember when I said there are different factors that affect how much water you might need, and one of those factors was climate. So if you think about like every day, we might have a different, I mean, in LA, we have pretty steady weather, but overall, the days are different. So the climate and the weather affects how much we might need. Same with exercising, your activity level. So if you're exercising more on one day, you're going to need more water on those days. When you sweat, you're getting rid of not only water, but the minerals as well. And that's why mineral repletion is so important. So if you're someone that sweats excessively, sweats a lot, you would need to replenish with both water and minerals.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Right. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's again, that's why that calculation I gave is a good starting point, but it's not necessarily I have to drink that exactly every single day. A lot of different factors.
I see, so it varies.
It varies, yes, it can vary. Now, not by a lot, usually from a day-to-day basis, but it can vary. Um, well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the questions and really appreciate you guys being here on a Friday. So if you have questions, you're more than welcome to email me. Or you can set up an appointment. I don't have the link here, but if you go through the Fitwell page, you can find ways to meet up with a dietitian, either me or one of the other dietitians. Oh, thanks. Liz has the website in the chat. So you can sign up for a nutrition session, and then either me or one of the other dietitians can talk to you more about hydration or just more about your health in general.